Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the first subgroup meeting of the Agent Privacy and Security Subgroup. I'm Luke Kerner. Real quick, I'm just going to give some DAIAA updates here before we turn it over to the subgroup. Chris, first, again, remind everybody, since we have some folks here, this is your first DAIAA event. The mission of DAIAA is to foster the development and proliferation of decentralized AI agents through education, activism, research, and events. And subgroups is one of the main ways that the DAIAA is looking forward to impacting change, and really moving the decentralized AI agent cause forward. Real quick, the next general meeting, we have 2 meetings a month at DAIAA. The first Monday of the month is a general meeting. This Monday is the 6th. It's a holiday for some people in the US, so we pushed the next general meeting to the 13th. The second general meeting we have, so the first general meeting, we generally get the industry experts to come and educate us. The second general meeting is a showcase where we get 3 of our members to showcase the agents they're building. That's happening on the 20th. And for any of the folks on the webinar who are interested in joining DAIAA, it's free to join. Just send an email to info@daia.org and someone will follow up. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris, who's going to be leading the Agency Privacy and Security Subgroup. Chris?
Great. Thanks a lot for the intro, Lou, and welcome to those who've joined. Hi to everybody watching this later online. Thanks, Lou, for posting these on your YouTube channel. That's super helpful. I've gone back and viewed a couple of them, and we're linking to them from our newsletter as well, which is very helpful. I'm going to get my screen share started here. Give that a start. Okay. So I was trying to go full screen on this before, and it was giving me some issues. I'm just going to go.
Oh, that looks good. That's full screen.
Perfect. You can see my toolbar, but no worries there. So yeah, welcome everybody to the inaugural Agent Privacy and Security Subgroup. I'm Chris from Open Matter Network, and we're chairing this group. I'm doing so alongside with my teammates Ada Anderson and Matt Meyer, who will hopefully be joining us shortly. We've had a very busy week because we're actually doing our TGE this week, and we're doing our mainnet launch this week, and we're getting all our node validators online this week, building out the DPID network. So it's been a very hectic week so far, and throwing this inaugural launch on top of it has been fun and interesting. So I can't promise anything, but I hope at least we have fun. So as I mentioned, we're chairing this group alongside our role leading the HOL AI Privacy and Security Subcommittee. When Lou reached out for people to run work groups, I thought this would be a really good crossover because it gives us an opportunity to build the primitives on one side and then come over here with all the builders and test the primitives and get real-time feedback from the people who are hopefully going to be using all these things. We have some other members within DAIAA here who are also contributing. So thanks to the Horizon team. Thanks again to the HOL team for helping us get that together. So looking at the list, we had about 50 people who were RSVP'd to this today, spanning policy, academia, startups, and enterprise. So over the next hour, we're going to map out the real risks of deploying agents at scale and start building the cryptographic tooling to fix them. So I want to be clear up front. This is not a webinar, it's just a work group. So hopefully you'll want to contribute, and you should expect to leave with some actionable architectural blueprints. With that said, let's move on to our first slide here. So I just wanted to touch on the state of the agentic economy. Most of you, especially if you're in compliance or in enterprise now, are very familiar with this. To set the baseline, let's kind of look exactly where the agentic economy stands today. So we're officially transitioning from reactive generative AI chatbots into proactive, goal-oriented agentic solutions. The adoption rate is staggering, and we're seeing over 10 million AutoGPT installs and over $4.5 billion poured into agentic AI startups in the last 2 years alone. Low-code frameworks are completely democratizing this technology, so it's accelerating. But here's the reality check, and the reason this subgroup exists is the production readiness gap. 73% of enterprises are actively testing agents right now, but only 12% have actually put them into production. Why? Because the moment you try to connect an autonomous agent to a real customer database, enterprise security and compliance protocols completely break down. We have the intelligence, but we lack the trust infrastructure. The agentic trajectory. We have to solve that gap immediately because the trajectory is moving faster than legacy security can handle, moving at machine speed. This year, the market is sitting at roughly $10 billion, and we expect 25% of enterprises to force these deployments into production. By next year, BCG projects projects the agent-to-human ratio in knowledge will reach 1 to 4. So agent actions online are only growing. By 2028, we expect 40% of these agentic workloads to shift away from centralized cloud providers and onto decentralized physical infrastructure, DeepIn, simply because of cost and privacy demands. This is racing towards a $199 billion market by the early 2030s. The enterprises that figure out how to deploy securely will scale, and those that don't will be priced out of the market. So the architectural reality and why CISOs are terrified. So over in the HOL working group, we've uncovered a massive deployment gap. Right now, up to 70% of enterprises are running agent API connections directly in their stack. No containers, no sandboxes, zero isolation. We're giving autonomous agents God mode access, essentially. So looking at the table on the screen, with data and secrets, agents are storing API keys locally in their memory. If an agent falls victim to a prompt injection, your API credentials are mathematically compromised, and that's a honeypot. Execution, because there's no containment, an infinite tool use loop can silently spin up a $50,000 cloud bill before a human ever notices. And under compliance, we're relying on application layer logging. If an agent processes GDPR protected data in the wrong jurisdiction, your log files aren't an audit trail. They're just a confession of a compliance violation. So you can't trust an agent to police itself. Enforcement has to happen at the network and socket level. Moving towards trust infrastructure. That brings us to the solution and what we're going to be standardizing in this group, hopefully, or at least working around trust infrastructure. Right now, the industry relies heavily on hardware trust, like trusted execution environments, but hardware has historical vulnerabilities. We need to shift toward immutable mathematical trust. These are the 3 pillars that we must be building. ZK audit trails. We need a way to cryptographically prove an agent followed a policy, like proving it didn't touch a PII database without actually logging or leaking the sensitive data that it did touch. So zero knowledge is extremely important on that compliance trail. Threshold decryption, we need distributed secrets. An agent should never hold a complete API key at a single point of failure. And verifiable trust scores. Ultimately, we need a 0 to 100 rating system so an enterprise can instantly verify an agent's reliability based on its immutable cryptographic history. This is something that we're not specifically building ourselves within HOL, but there are other subcommittees working on that, and it would be really great to see how people in this group are using verifiable trust scores to determine agent access. Slide 6, the risks of not scaling. So some enterprise leaders look at these risks and say, let's just wait. Let's pause our agent rollout until the security catches up. And that really is an error. Looking at the divergence on the chart, orgs that are leveraging agents are seeing a 10x operational leverage and cutting costs by 30%, while manual workflows just simply cannot compete. This creates what we call the security paradox. Delaying your AI adoption means you're relying on human speed detection to fight off threat actors who are already using AI speed defense. You can't fight machines with manual compliance. Path forward. Realistically, this is our core mission here in this DAIAA subgroup. Our goal is to empower this ecosystem to develop autonomous agents that protect user data, mitigate these exact security vectors, and operate securely at scale. We're going to find the intersection of cryptographic privacy, threshold security, and enterprise scalability, and we're going to build the open standards that make this tech safe for the world to use. So that is my presentation, and I hope that is a pretty good overview of what you were expecting to see in this group. And I hope that opens up some questions. Before we move on to open up the floor, just a few quick action items. So I want to remind people to join the DAIAA Telegram. There is a group out there on Telegram. Lou will provide the link in the description of this video, and I can grab the link and pop it in the chat in a little bit here once the floor opens up. Second, we have a Substack that is essentially tracking the primitives that we're building along with industry news. We also make some announcements around these DAIAA events. So check out openmatter.substack.com for the link to that. Go ahead and subscribe, and you'll see some information around the mainnet launch that I announced earlier. So hope to see some of you there. And also, we want you to share your builds. So, you know, when you're coming to these meetings, we want to hear about what you're building, what sort of standards you're using, and you know, how we can push things forward. So now I'd like to turn this over to the room. We've just outlined a massive gap between piloting an agent and securing it in production. So Lou, how do we normally do this?
Sure. You know, I'll start off and ask some questions, and then, you know, others just chime in. You know, there's not too many folks here today. A lot of folks signed up, so we've got a lot of folks on the email list at least. First, why don't you start? Just give a little more background on the HLL initiative that you were referring to.
Yeah, HOL stands for Hashgraph Online. They're a kind of a spin out of the Hashgraph, their Hashgraph ecosystem. And they are responsible for building agentic primitives. I'm actually going to bring up their partnership program so I can give you the full overview. What we're focused on with them is the cryptographic execution, security, and privacy. So we're heading that up, and we're in collaboration with Horizon Labs. What we're doing is discussing ways that ZK proofs.
Horizon Labs is longtime friends of Crypto Mondays. They actually host Crypto Mondays in Milan.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'm sure they know some of our advisors who are also in Milan. So let's take a look here. I'm actually going to swap my screen to HOL so you guys can have a look at that. And I'll give you the quick rundown. Present. Okay. So this is HOL, coordination layer for AI agent infrastructure. You may have seen on the last slide that we're going to shift our time 1 hour later. So we're going to do this again in 2 weeks. And rather than starting at 12 o'clock Eastern, we're going to start at 1 o'clock Eastern. And that's specifically because HOL holds an event at the exact same time. We don't want to clash with them. So be sure to check that out. Go check out their socials. I'm going to hop into this ecosystem here. Let's go into standards. We should have partnership program. Oh yeah, this is our one specifically that we're working on. Okay, so if I head to standards now, and you can see the different working groups within those standards, they've got these subcommittees: AI privacy and security, interagent communication and governance, agent registries, so identity, trust, and discovery, and agentic payments. This is a relatively new program that started a couple months ago. And because we were all already building in this area, and we have some things that launched on mainnet today, we thought it would be a good fit for us to go in there and figure out how to standardize these. On the agent registry side, there are a number of big name partners as well, like GoDaddy.com and XMTP. So there's some big names who are involved in standardizing these things. So we're pretty excited to be working there. And you can see if we just pop in here, we've got our Kanban board of different things that we're working on. Yeah, we've got some GitHub repos going on. And so this is actually, this is led by DAIAA, who's our CTO at Open Matter Network. And then the Horizon Labs guys are a fantastic sounding board. They're in there talking about, you know, what they're building and how they're executing. And the HOL guys as well have built in some interesting ZK firewall type things.
Yeah, all in on ZK.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a great track record as well. I mean, as far as I know, they built the Bored Ape chain. JP, I see you've got a question.
Yeah, Chris, this looks really interesting. Would love to poke around. I'll have to do that later. But I noticed just at the top of the screen there that PQC was mentioned as a kind of foundational point there. Yeah, post-quantum cryptographic baseline. Do you have insight, and maybe there's different encryption standards being used in different portions of this, but do you have insight into which PQC decisions or encryption they're going with?
So currently we're using ring learning with errors. And I can't tell you more beyond that. Ada was supposed to be here today to chime in on some of the technical aspects, but as I mentioned, PGE and mainnet launch today has gone a little off the rails. So she is fighting fires over there.
Yeah, no, totally hear you. No, that sounds great. I'll put that in my notes tab here.
Yeah, and I can actually share what we're building in terms of our white paper, and that mentions our PQC primitives. So if I can just go to our website here, we should have a link to our white paper specifically. If not, we've done an update. So I'll find that white paper and I will share the link to it in the group. So yeah, I'll find that. And while I'm doing so, I wanted to open up to some questions to the group. So let's have a quick look here. What's the biggest blocker preventing your organization from moving agents from pilot to production? So is there anyone out here who's actually deploying agents currently?
Yeah, hi. I am.
Hi, Bruce.
Yeah. Hi, how's it going? Trying to turn my camera on. Good. Yeah, I built over the last like 4 months. I have a combination sort of my mission statement is to bring the name of my sort of working. It's under a company, but it's called TSI Citadel, and it's going to be a sovereign organization and being able to work with others, setting up that, which is really coming into vogue now. Sort of a human centric, but I have 19 OpenClaw and about 8 Hermes that are working. And of course I use, Claude and Cursor and Codex often. And but basically so I've built this to both have customers, but also be able to modularly set up other organizations. And but it's a part-time gig because I have a main time mission to work with the founder of DAIAA, Lehman Baird. I work with at the DREC Alliance, which is we're an open source scientific standards organization, just trying to drive standards. And so that's my main mission. And one of my agents is for DREC producing content, and I'm starting to build out a community that really just launched last week. And so, but no, it's amazing. It's really amazing how the changes, and I don't get into the turf wars of between OpenClaw and Hermes, which is gets heated occasionally. I think it's not an either or situation. And I built up a team that have the agents tend to have specialties and do small circular harnesses of other but I have research panels with 4 or 5 agents on one. And so I put together algorithms that sort of harness and check output. And anyway, and have a second brain that keeps track of everything. And I just developed a RAG system on top of that. And I just initiated the new standard OKF that Google started, which is really phenomenal, which is a way that you can make a markdown file, save it with a YAML header, and it's a way that it saves token use. Max token use, maxing tokens uses was yesterday. Going forward, it's going to be more using your tokens more wisely. And so I work with a lot of different other companies' tools like Cubic for editing my code, or going through and checking it, and also one called Factory Droid, which is really first class organization that I partner with for long running loop runs, where I can get loops going 8 to 12 hours and they're monitoring it. So that's it in a broad shell, broad mile high. But OKF's a very interesting standard that Google just started that I suggest people do, because every time you start up, even with Claude, your agents might not know the mission of your company. They forget what they just did, even if you try to give them context and you've loaded all these skills. So when they start up, they churn to connect everything. And with the Google system, it reduces your tokens, because boom, right away, if I have something with Chris's all files are instantly loaded. So what used to be 100% RAG and fine tuning, now 80% is done just by that. And it front loads all the information ahead of time before you're starting your processing, the prompt or the loops.
Nice. That sounds optimized. Sounds like you got a lot going on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You must have a lot of processing power.
Well, technically I actually run it on a HCS, Hostinger, but I have a hybrid where my local inference is on a Mac Mini that I could containerize and have it all run on Mac Silicon in the future, or NVIDIA Silicon or AMD. And I'm also looking into RISC-V, which has some, and AMD is also, AMD is coming online with finally training models, and Mistral. So I'm trying to get a mix, not just because of what happened with Fable, but because it might be mandated by European law, it might be mandated by a company. As Alex Karp said from Palantir, their best marketing is OpenAI Codex and Anthropic, because people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize that AI companies have a much higher failure rate than even traditional startups. And that's because a lot of people just put wrappers around someone else's system that, as the inference costs has come down, that other organization, and they have a history of doing this before AI, right? That Twitter would take the ecosystem and then put the feature in. So as people built a business with a touch of a button, ChatGPT or Claude can just take your business and do it, you know? So if you control your destiny and your privacy, and part of my system I didn't mention, but because of your, HOL talk, all of my systems, agentic behavior from the genesis to the future, are all on chain on Hedera, and I'm running everything currently on the test net. So that way you can actually prove for like a law firm or something, exactly what happened. And a big area that I'm following both with DREC Alliance is the agentic wave of activity. And if you have wallets, Stripe, Coinbase are all doing a fiat ramp, or doing fiat payments, let alone crypto payments. The management of keys is very important. So that's one of my missions, is the security side. And I come from a hybrid sort of research, Wall Street and trading background, but I've also ran for a large bad bank that the German government owned, all the IT security. So security is sort of my mission, because in this day, AI, I'm trying to make it a springboard, not a straitjacket. But if you're AI slop, thinking it's going to be, you don't need humans to check output. So many people don't realize the higher end models can make errors sort of hidden. If you have 100-page documents and it's 20 pages, you'll all of a sudden notice, hey, something happened. But you really do, especially with text, the quality of the output very quickly goes from downhill, and you have to, and so I've been focused on both the security, you controlling your data that you collect over time, and that way you're not embedded into the system like the way in the old days where everyone was locked into Oracle and couldn't switch, and that's what brought Kubernetes, to fruition. So I'm trying to make things as compartmentalized but as secure as possible. So I don't have crazy, and luckily I loaded up a bit right before Thanksgiving, and I'm thankful for that. But currently, most of my processing is done on the cloud, and that has, I think, value from just running 24 hours a day, being accessed from everywhere. Mm-hmm. And within our organization, I did just add on. So I work with Discord, Slack, Telegram are my primary, and iPhone, iMessage, but I also just added Slack. And within my organization, there's really just two of us. I just added the tag feature of Slack running Anthropic threads, where you're actually running Anthropic right in the threads on Slack. It's pretty crazy. So that's that's what I've been working on.
Nice. That's cool. Very busy indeed, and that's what it's all about: getting your swarm up there and getting them working for you. So JP, I see that you posted a couple links on there, and I had those shared on the screen. Actually, you can see Digital Chamber website up there right now. You've got your, let's see, the first is the response to the National Institute of Standards to the NIST request for information on security considerations for AI agents. This is a
Chris,
extremely comprehensive.
I think you got like a audio coming in from another source.
Oh, have I?
Or maybe it's Bruce.
Oh, it's funny. I don't hear anything at my end, but I will definitely mute. Okay.
Can you still hear it?
I can't hear anything.
I see two Lou's though. Hey, Lou. No, I don't know. Can you hear everything okay, JP?
Sorry, it was a random page that refreshed on my end. Apologies, everyone.
Okay, cool. No worries. Well, we didn't hear it, so you're all good. Yeah, so this is a super comprehensive letter. Are you working with the Digital Chamber?
Yeah, so just real quick by way of introduction, I am a policy director at the Digital Chamber. I head our AI and quantum computing working group. And this is one, I think the second link may have taken you to the reports and letters page, but I had tried to link both our letters. One was on agentic security considerations, and then one was on agentic authorization and verification considerations.
Okay.
So both of these were for NIST. I think one was for NCCOE, and I just wanted to share those in there. I think both of them are around 30 pages long, so feel free to peruse at your leisure. But just wanted to put that out there and share where we're looking from a policy side. I think the most kind of our one big takeaway, if you had to boil it down to one sentence, is just that AI agents need native identification and authorizations linked to a principal, whether that's an individual, a business, or a government entity. I'm not sure, how realistic that is, as people have the ability to just spin up an agent, and whether they'll be able to work around even programmatic requirements. But just in terms of liability and thinking through how we're going to solve some of the future problems. I can link that other one too. How we're going to solve some of the future problems. It all kind of comes back to identity and being able to identify agents, know who's got them out in the wild, and to be able to identify that an agent, when it's acting, is an agent, not its related principal. But that's open to interpretation. I'm also, excited to be part of this group and in this working group to hear feedback from the industry, because ultimately, at the end of the day, we represent industry interests. We of course are a member organization, so if there was like a big conflict between our members and this small group, I would hope to be able to explain kind of our side, but also hear from you guys what you're hearing, so that I can take that back to our membership. If anyone would like to, more directly participate, happy to talk about membership, but I'm not here to sell you guys. I'm more here to share what work we're doing and to present the best front to regulators as possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anybody else is interested, please chime up, but I know we definitely are. We would love to speak to from the open matter standpoint. We're, as you can see with HOL, we're trying to push these standards forward, and we want to be working with people at the government level. I think it's also challenging to not just develop primitives and standards that are useful within the US jurisdiction, but then how do these translate globally? Because so many jurisdictions have their own requirements. You just look at the EU AI Act and you can see that they've got their own ideas of what's useful versus what's not. And there's almost sort of like three different branches of three different approaches. You've kind of got the UK versus the US versus the EU. And then beyond that, I think everyone's just going to kind of pick one. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, generally. I think the EU-US divide is so specifically for us, we're traditionally a blockchain and digital assets trade, and we're kind of dipping our toe into the AI front. We're not exclusively decentralized AI. If Amazon showed up today and said, hey, we need representation, we would represent them. But I personally am very interested in decentralized AI. If I could, give the case to my boss that, hey, we've got a dozen DAI companies and I'd like to just run with this rather than widening the pool and having to water down some of our commentary, I would. But at this point, we're just trying to, make a name for ourselves, show that we're serious, show that we understand the topics. On the EU front, I said all that to say that the GDPR requirements for data deletion is a big hangup, especially with blockchain-based AI systems, just because anything that's being recorded, anything that's tied to your pseudonymous identity, it's on chain kind of like for good. So totally hear you, Chris. Like when we think about what kind of policy proposals or what kind of regulations we'd comment on in the European context, it's a lot of it is trying to get around some of their base layer requirements. In the US though, we're kind of dealing less at the federal level. I mean, these letters were to NIST. We're still working with NIST on a number of these questions, and we're working with Obernalty's office, who just put forward the Great American AI Act, and the Blackburn team, who has a competing Republic AI Act on the Senate side, which probably won't go anywhere because it's super heavy touch regulation. So we are working with federal players, but at the state level, that's where we're seeing more of this activity. And it's also where we're seeing the opportunity to experiment a little bit more. So like with agents, with liability frameworks, like Bruce, you were talking about spinning up agents, and it sounds like a lot of what they do is like internal facing so that your employees are able to coordinate with them. But the second you send that agent out into the world, I think we'll see like California is going to be super, super strict on that stuff. They're probably going to follow some of the recommendations proactively that we're putting into papers like this to NIST. But other states may, Wyoming, Montana, as they put together their frameworks, they're going to be super light touch. And so I also want to make sure that, I'm saying what I think is the best policy move, but also I don't know everything. In the states, if we're going to let them be laboratories of democracy, that might be a really great opportunity as like DAIAA members go out into the world, send their agents out into the world and start having experiences, maybe hearing some of the pitfalls, but also some of the benefits. And like, if you had to identify your agent, what would change, on your business model? Or if your agent had like it's a great idea if we could be like, go make me $1 million. Here's $1,000 to start. It'd be really cool if they could just do that. But also a recommendation we have in there is like risk tiering human involvement. So like maybe the agent doesn't need you to sign off on every $2 transaction, or if it's paying for its own compute through its own labor, like maybe you don't need to do micropayment approvals. But if it's trying to move $30,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, maybe that's the time that we put like a flag in there and it just kind of holds up the agent, which makes sense from my policy side. But of course, you guys as builders, maybe you need that throughput to be fully automated, and maybe like $1 million isn't that big a deal for your business. And so, that $1 million needs to move without your say so. So we don't have all the answers.
Did you hear that some agent approved a $1.4 million loan?
No.
There's an article about it on Forbes online, and basically it approved and it turned out it did fit to Katria, and it was a good loan, but they reversed it because 2 different people missed approving, and it just did it. Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah. It's stories like that make my conversations with House Financial Services a little tougher, but I mean, at least it all worked out. At least, it wasn't $1.4 million to the wrong person or something.
Right. Why does that make it tougher? I thought that make your case that you need to have structure and. It would just be the automated approval, right? So like if there was supposed to be a manual approval and then the agent didn't get the approval it needed, and then it just went ahead and did it anyway. I assume that the approval requirement was coded in at some level and not just like given to the agent to like incorporate in natural language. I don't know for sure, but I think so. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. If somebody's, running a business with multi-million-dollar, access to multi-million-dollar portfolios. But it makes it tougher because when I go to Congress, I want to be able to say, hey, if we hard code this stuff in, it'll work the way it's supposed to work. And then, having them be like, okay, well, what happened here? Did they hard code it in? If the answer is yes, then I've got to backpedal and make excuses and be like, well, here's the specific situation and here's why that didn't work. And as open to listening to, the tech industry as a lot of Congress is, they still don't want to hear oops,
Yeah. Well, just think about in the real world how many oopses there have been. I think most of the fraud is factually still in Benjamins through banks around the world. So I don't know. But
so as far as like audit trails go, what types of things are they looking for? We're doubling down on ZK audit trails, and showing cryptographic proof of compliance. Is that something that will be the de facto standard, or are there other standards out there that you would accept or that government bodies would accept as a compliance trail?
Yeah, I think that'll be a state requirement. I don't think you're going to see federal audit trails required at the federal level, or at the federal level, just because that would be, everyone would tries to be tech neutral. Even though we represent ostensibly like the blockchain industry, we still try not to use the word blockchain in like our recommendations for legislative text. Because even though blockchain incorporates hundreds of companies or thousands of chains, it still precludes some like other distributed ledger technologies. There are other classical Web 2 ways to solve certain problems. So on the audit trail, of course, there's chain of thought. There's you could be holding these audit trails in like a protected and private, repository that you control. All of these things can absolutely work. It's not from our side, we're recommending what you're doing, Chris. That's our like top line. Like, this is what the best of the best companies, the most compliant companies, the ones that you shouldn't have to doubt what they're doing. They're the ones who are keeping audit trails and making those accessible to regulators, at least, if not the public. The alternative would be to make some of those audit trails public, although there's privacy issues with that. I mean, if you've got ZK protected audit trails, that's like a really good way. It would probably be a little easier. I mean, maybe you can correct me here. I'm kind of thinking through how that would work. And if I'm a regulator, to be able to to be able to actually audit your ZK protected trails, I'd think I'd have to know, you'd have to know what questions I'd ask, so that I can go in and, yes, no, assess the ZK. So when you were putting that together, maybe that's wrong. So tell me if that's wrong. But if it's correct, when you were putting it together, were you just thinking through like, okay, well, what information will somebody need to know? Or were you just kind of freeballing, just saying, just store everything? Or
Well, on the surface, it's really a case of, was the agent compliant, not what did the agent access or not access. The policy is built into the zero knowledge proof or the circuit, and so if that circuit completes, then the agent was compliant. If they weren't compliant, it fails for some reason or another. And there are ways to build in reasons behind that. Why did it fail? Because it tried to access first name, or because it tried to export wallet key. That can be built in, but on the surface, it's really just a case of, was the agent compliant to company policy? Yes. Now, the next question is, what's company policy? Because that's what they're going to want to check. And that's going to come down to the auditors having access to what is company policy. Does agent adhere to company policy? If yes, then audit passes.
got it. Yeah, I think that would certainly fulfill our recommendations. So I would 100%, showcase that as like, you're doing better than a lot of other AI companies out there.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear. And there's a couple of nuances around the execution gateway and how that operates. So we can actually block agent actions. So running it in time with the execution, the policy and the execution are linked. So if policy fails, the execution fails. Or we can decouple that. So if you have executions which are time sensitive and you need zero latency added, so things that are financial transactions that aren't huge amounts. So, let's say it's under $5,000 and the company wants to just be able to execute immediately. You can run the audit chain in parallel. And so the execution happens immediately with zero latency, and the audit trail sort of builds up and produces after the fact. Side by side, it takes, it's microseconds, but when it comes down to latency and financial transactions, obviously the quicker the better.
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how audits will be used, but certainly, I mean, even if it was like a even if you were talking about latency in minutes, for processing this audit and then getting it uploaded to a reviewable system, probably going to be in like a post-mortem is really what this comes down to. So somebody goes to the police and says, I've been defrauded of $1 million or whatever.
Mhm.
The police are the ones, weeks, days, months later that are going to, in a court case, that's where those audit trails are going to be useful to the government. I don't think, I don't know whether I'd want the government to be able to, but I certainly don't have faith that the government would be able to in like real time, review these things and put holds on activity. It's just too much going on, especially if agents are spinning up sub agents, spinning up sub agents. I mean, you could have thousands of agents all running potentially problematic things. I mean, not saying that necessarily your system would, but like a bad actor could be doing this. So I don't think the government is really even focused on that. I think that's more a value add for your clients, right? Especially if you're working with clients in the financial space. That's something that you can sell on, that like, hey, we have this process, it's super fast. And then if your client wants to, they're only dealing with you. So if they want to monitor those agents, make sure that their funds are, being treated appropriately and to company policy, then that sounds like an awesome product and offering.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting looking into registries and what you can build around that. So if an agent has a specific access rights, it has a specific authorization to be able to do said execution, they may or may not have to pass through this cryptographic execution. So you can kind of layer the security levels. If you have higher risk agents, you're going to want them to do more checks and more processes, which will take longer and cost more money. But if they don't have the proof of who they are, or they're not as trusted, then it would make sense that they have to go through those checks as well. So it's interesting to see the layering effect of all these different security and privacy protocols, especially as it comes to accessing private data. So what our premise is, secure collaboration around personal data. So HR departments who need to collaborate on large data sets between different departments within the same organization or cross jurisdictionally, and they want to provide data for the board of directors, they can't mix those two data sets. So in theory, you could send an agent in there, retrieve the data that you need, put together a report, and send that report off to the board meeting. Now, how do you prove that they didn't exfiltrate wallet addresses or health data or personalized information, any PII from staff? The same can be done for the healthcare industry. So you want to collaborate on a biomarker research study, give the agent access, but then how do you prove that they didn't access anything or output anything that was extremely sensitive? So yeah, plenty to be built on.
Sure.
You guys give me we use a fintech bank, the Direct Alliance, called Meow, and I grew up with cats and dogs, so I'm not in that fight, but I don't. It's an interesting name. I don't really love it, but they actually, I just sent a link to a YouTube. They actually have incorporation for your agent, and they were the first one. I was the first customer of theirs to do stable coin payment, because we're a 501c3. And we're not a crypto. We are Switzerland. We support every block. You can be a block Bitcoin maximalist to whoever. And anyway, Meow was the first one of our debank companies for Ripple, their wallet called XRPL Labs, and they've rebranded now. Couldn't do euros. They didn't have access to wire. So the bottom line is, finally, when we got the stablecoin payment, we received it. So interesting. And I was just wondering, because it is connected. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That is our current website. And I wonder if I could share one that I'm about to build out on the community. And I'm looking for, you can come contribute. We're open source. You can become a member. And it's talk to me if you're interested.
You want to share the screen? You want to share your screen?
I'll share screen. This is the one I'm going to, that I'm still, I think I have to reduce my screen a little because the menu's covered up. Okay, I'll share.
And interesting that you bring up Meow because our foundation is going through the KYC process as we speak for Meow.
Yeah, and we ended up, they pay a lot of very good interest, very good service. They're based here. I actually used to give away their t-shirts. We do have Mercury as a backup, but which is great in a lot of ways for bigger organizations, but Meow has been really cool. It's not, we're a very pretty small, lean organization. We're more of a startup phase. But this is our website, DREC community. And originally I had, you can't lose what you can't lose, but it's sort of illogical and it would sort of confuse the agents, I think. But so we're trying to have this is not the final copy. I'm just hosting this. Oh, is it not sliding? Hold on. How do I control it? For some reason I can't scroll.
Yeah, I had a similar situation with my slides.
Maybe if I share my screen instead of that window. Try one more time. Sorry about that.
I'm
I'll do
sorry
it.
to cut in. I just did want to say I have to jump to prepare for a 1 p.m. meeting. Chris,
Oh, you
Bruce,
do? Okay.
I would absolutely love to talk to you more, Bruce, especially about DREC. Trying to understand how we can support that group as well.
Well, I'd love your support. I've even talked to Patrick Witt about this down at in Miami, and so and you're at a much more structured organization. I'll reach out. And thank you.
Are you in the Telegram, JP? Oh, you're on mute.
I am not yet, but I am. I just dropped my email in the chat, and I will definitely keep an eye out from Lou for the Telegram access.
And before you go, JP, I just want to mention, look at Keet.io, Keetio. They took over a bird. It's unbelievable, and it's backed by Tether. But look at all their pairs.com, the apps they're putting out. It's peer-to-peer serverless deliver of it's amazing, of JavaScript, HTML, direct with no servers, and they have many applications besides Keet, but it's amazing. And I'd love your thoughts on that type of delivery system for agents too. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just something to think on. TDC is somebody from BSV Association, which is a full Turing complete Bitcoin fork that they run, but they're doing some agentic work right now. They recommended having a TDC offering for our members of having agents that both have access to all of our political intel and then have access to private information from our member databases, that the data is not controlled, that it's all sovereign from for the member, so that we don't have access to their systems. I am not a builder. I am not a coder, so would love to talk to Bruce, you or Chris, at a later point about how we could maybe get that up and running.
That sounds great, because we do have a senior Rust engineer who's an unbelievable coder who works with all our members to get their, and our first announcements coming out so I'd love to do that. So I'm sort of in between. I'm not the senior engineer. Well,
you're more of an engineer than I'll ever be, Bruce. So, all right, I'll let y'all go. Take care.
Cool.
All right, see you later.
So this is finally, I can scroll on it. So this is we don't need to go through everything, but this should be posted and be on live off the main landing page, which I'm about to redo. But this is the mechanism of how DREC Alliance works. And it is important. Some of our members are 100% addressing the agentic aspect. And there's a little bit of debate. Some people feel it's not as real, but I think it's an important area to focus on with this, as standards are getting developed, and you have Stripe doing it, as I said, Coinbase. So the two parts of the DREC Alliance, and we're just a scientific standards organization, research. We never sell software. We are we just provide the layer, and you could be for internal teams of JP Morgan, Fidelity, any wallet, any secret. It's non-crypto, and it is post-quantum or quantum resistant. So it could be, credit unions, family office, public sector entities, agentic payments infrastructure, and we'd looking for computers and also members. So here, the current members. And last fall, Ripple purchased Palisades, one of our other members. And the real thing is, if half the world's going to have a digital wallet or digital assets, and you have DTCC doing $4 quadrillion of assets on the real world, equities and fixed income, they're doing a digital twin. So you'll be able to trade wherever the liquidity is, either the digital asset or the traditional asset. And so it's coming. It doesn't feel like today's market.
I dropped a link to the Telegram group into the chat.
Thank you. Yep. Cool. That's it. So that's it. Thank you. But Chris, let's stay in touch. I'm pretty excited about digging into your projects you put out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Are you in the Telegram?
I'll add it right now.
Yeah, hop in there, and I go by NF
Where's the link?
Thinker.
What's the ad name so I can
Put it in the chat.
Oh, it is in the chat. I'll get it then. Cheers. I'll stay on. I'm just going to stop sharing. Okay.
Yeah, well, we're going to wrap this baby up anyway because I've got to run to another meeting. We've all got agendas to keep. So yeah, exciting. This was fun. I wasn't sure whether to bring my whole presentation today or not. Lou, is that what you're looking for each week?
Yeah, just like an agenda, set the roadmap and kind of what you'd like to accomplish for the call. So good job. Great
Perfect.
start. Look forward to seeing everybody in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, see you all in a couple weeks.
It's exciting, man. I'm
See
very
you in the Telegram as well.
Good seeing you guys.
All right, see y'all. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Lisa, I remember, and I saw her face and it put me together where I met her. I met her at the, you remember that at the Hard Rock Cafe event that Crypto Mondays from DC had last year with the bands, and it was during UN week. Anyway. So,
Yeah, they're going to do it again.
Yeah, I just got the invite for that. So
yeah. Okay,
cool.
see you, everyone.
Yeah.
See ya.